Okay, so now that everybody's in, and I'm sure that there'll be a few stragglers, we look forward to having Helen on. Hold on, I'm going to make her like the big, if I can figure out how to do spotlight video. Let's see. There she is. We look forward to having Helen on, like we look forward to Christmas Day. She is just so much fun. I've known Helen since I moved to Birmingham, and just over the years we got talking about how just teaching people the fundamentals of how they should think about their daily spending and annual spending is just a passion on her heart, and she's really gifted at it. And so I said, well, if she knows so much about this, I'm going to go see her too, because we do, the investments and we can do financial planning, but practical financial habits to just get you through your day is a totally separate ball game. And actually our financial minimalism course that we created is based on a lot of Helen's principles. So what we are thinking is that Helen is going to be a staple on Wealth Edit Wednesdays, and we just might have her on once a month because she has so much knowledge that we need. So anyway, with that introduction, Helen, I'm just going to let you take it away. And if y'all hear screaming kids in the background, I'm going to mute myself unless I have a question, because we don't know what could happen over here. So Helen, welcome. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you, Lauren and Emily. I love to talk about money, and you know that. So Emily told me to open up with just a short, who am I? And so my name is Helen Owens. I live in Birmingham. I moved to England for 4 years with my husband, who was on business. And we have 2 children, grown, Brett and Milner, and they're married to Gunter and Joseph, and they have children. And I named them, my husband is Dickie. He's still the cutest person I've ever met in my life. We've been married 100 years. And whenever I say that, he says, well, she's real cute, but she's not real smart. So we turn into Lucy and Rick. But I say those names, Dickie, Brett, Milner, Gunner, Joseph, because I refer to them. They've been a great teaching ground for me. So, I mean, basically 10 years ago, I've always been good with money. And Lauren knows I can see it. And I like to use the word money because it's raw. People talk about, well, what's your finances and what's your stock, well, what's your salary, blah, blah, blah. I want to talk about, where are you in your money? Do you know where you are? Are you out on a crest somewhere and you don't have a clue? Well, first of all, this is in the 50s, and you can't be out there and not know and not have a clue. But so my children started bringing their friends to see me because they were in trouble. They were in college. They were out of, actually, Milner and Rhett are great with money because they grew up with me. And that's a whole nother segment, which I want to do sometime, which is my segment on children and what are you doing with them. But anyway, so they started coming, then people started asking me to talk about this around town. And now I've done a bunch of seminars for people and talks to different groups. And so that's how I got here, because Lauren found me and I found her. So,
and Helen, you don't charge for your services, do you?
I do not charge, because you'll hear in my story is Dickie and I started out really, I don't even know how we lived. We lived in a duplex, and Dickie was straight out of law school, and I was teaching art in Tarrant because, yes, I have an art history degree. That was wise. So, and I like to say that my suite mate in college, I was doing a thesis on Lord Joseph Devine, and she did a salt map of Brazil, and guess which one of us got the job? It wasn't me. So, that actually is the segue into that. I've sold real estate for 23 years. I've been retired for 2. Dickie started out at the bottom of a huge, really Alabama, one of the biggest Alabama energy companies, and now he's the president of one of their divisions. So we're that couple that started out with really very little. We came from really nice families, very educated, no trust funds. And believe me, I was mad about it for years. So when I was able to quit selling real estate, and Dickie actually has done very well, he said, look, you don't need to work anymore and bring home money. I can handle it. And I said, well, then I'm going to do this for the kingdom. So I do not charge.
Well, I love that because I know that so many people that are in a crisis situation, oftentimes they can't afford to pay somebody, and that is a reason why they don't do it. And so this
Yeah,
allows
I
them, they
see.
have no excuse.
No, there's no. I see some people really who are in trouble. And then I have the other people who are fabulous who want to start deciding where to put certain, I talk in terms of coffee cans because that's the way I think. I'm extremely organized. And I've always seen, Emily, that if you have 10 cents, you only get to spend 9. That's the whole bottom of this whole thing. You only get to spend 9 cents. So in America today, well, that's not the way it is. Well, hey, I want that. So I'm just going to press click and worry about how to pay for it later. Debt is the biggest killer of wealth. And you should write that down somewhere and read it every day. Debt is the killer of wealth. Retailers are doing everything they can for you not to be smart and for you to just spend how they want you to spend. You got to take it back and own it.
All right. So where do you start when somebody comes to you? Like, what's your process? Do you
Well, I
start
like to hear
how they view
story.
money?
I like to hear their story because a lot of the people that come to me, it's not that they didn't have money or they even may have some money now. They have no idea how to look at money. They have no idea how to think about what have I got to spend this month? What have I got to spend this year, like taxes or insurance payments? And actually, what do I need to do right now to help when I'll say my daughter, who's a doctor, she's actually an infectious disease doctor at Vanderbilt, great timing. But anyway, when she wanted to go on to medical school and Red had postgraduate law school. And so I had already saved for that. I started when I was, in my mid 30s when I started making money in real estate. I didn't spend it. I saved it. And there's nothing wrong with saving. That's what gets me.
Yeah, for sure.
So I find out what their story is and then take their budget. Why are they in trouble? And if they're not in trouble, then I help them see, well, let's look what you've got coming down the road.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I start.
Well, and you say that you use 3 different budgets. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a monthly, an annual, and what, long term?
Long range, because even if you don't have children, you might want to go spend the summer in Provence someday. And I talk about Provence just because it's a great place. But, if you get to be in your late 40s and you decide you want to go to Provence, well, there's one issue. Do you have the money? If you save the money, or are you going to put that on a card and worry about it later, which makes me crazy. Mm-hmm. So yes, there is long-term is really important. Yearly, let's say you have children and 2 of them want to go to camp. Well, camp now is like going to Europe. So all of a sudden the camp bill comes in and you go, oh my word, where am I going to get this money? If you have been saving a 1/12 of it every month, then when the camp bill comes in, you go, great, I've got that money in this quote coffee can. Mm-hmm. So that becomes part of your monthly budget. It sounds complicated, but it's really not, Emily, when you get the gist of how my thinking is.
Mm-hmm.
So Helen, how do you unhook, like let's say that you are on the credit card train or I'm going to worry about it later train. How do you unhook from that train and get on your train? Like tell us the steps. How have you helped people do that?
Well, first of all, you got to change the way you're looking at money. And that's really what my basic premise is to change the way people look at money and to realize that being on a budget is powerful. It's not being cheap. It's being really smart. It's being really smart. And so if you can change and say, and actually part of my story is I wish I had been so brave when my children were young and I thought about it differently. And I thought, because we always had what we needed and a lot of what we wanted, but we were on a strict budget and my children didn't have an airplane. And actually Milner asked me one time, because her 2 best friends had an airplane, when are we getting an airplane? I said, well, we might go on one. But I was never brave enough to own it and say, hey, I'm on a budget. I'm so proud of it. We are making it. Instead, I was like, I can't do that. And I look back and think, that's not even my personality. I should have been brave. I'm out there. I mean it. So I try to get people, and I say, look, okay, so you're in trouble. You've got to pull back. You've got to take your credit cards away from yourself, and you've got to get on a plan to pay that back. And then you've got to start looking at, hey, what do I make? What's available to me, and how can I spend it wisely? 10 cents, 9 cents. There it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, and one thing that you and I talked about on our prep call was about, and you touched on this a little bit about looking, at those friends that seem to have it all, and how hard that is sometimes to compare and become discontent. But you shared a really interesting story about the friend who kind of had everything and how she viewed you. Can you share that one with us?
I will. In fact, Dickie and I, we have 2 sets of friends, and now they're kind of the same. But when we started out, we had the friends that were normal, and my lunch group, everybody in there has access to a plane, and I'm not kidding. So half the people own giant companies here. So I've always been kind of the token, budget that group, which kind of cracks me up. They laugh at me a lot. But so believe me, in my life, I have looked to the side a lot and really grumbled. The best thing I can say, looking back and facing and owning what I was like then, is that I didn't speak it as much as I thought it. It was still harmful to me, though. And I looked around and grumbled. I wish I had. In fact, don't let the things you want make you forget the things you have. I have that written everywhere. So in my late 30s, early 40s, one of my friends, you would know her. Her family is one of the wealthiest families in the Southeast, at least. And she is one of my best friends from growing up. And she came to me one day and she said, I know that you and Dickie are on a terrible budget. I know you are. In fact, I can see it in your face. And I said, yes. And she said, and I know that I have boats and trains and planes. And if I want a car, I call up and they bring it to me. I said, yes. And she said, but so you think that I've just got it knocked. I've got it all. You do. And basically she said, first of all, you don't know anything. I remember that. I was going, huh? I said, yes, I do know that. You have it so easy. She said, ease is not the same thing. So she said, let me tell you something. And this, I told Emily, is one of the light bulbs in my life that I can really pull up and remember. She said, you don't get it. And okay, why? She said, because you're assuming because I'm so wealthy that everything's okay. My children are damaged from the divorce. By the way, they all turned out fabulously, but they were in counseling, and she had terrible dating issues, and although she's happily married now. And she said, and the joke is, I'm looking at you wanting what you have. And I mean, you could have hit me with a pie. I said, you're kidding me. Why do you say that? And she said, well, look at your life. You have a happy marriage. Your children are growing up in a normal home, which they did, and they will say that. And even though you're on a budget, I don't see that you're hurting for anything. You just aren't taking your children skiing in Vail instead of, we went to Mobile one AEA. And I remember we laughed about it in the car going down to see one of my best friends and her children, is that most of my children's friends were going to Europe or to Vail. So, but I learned a lesson then. You don't know anything. If you're on a tight budget and you're looking around and you think your friend next door, even a great friend of yours, you truly do not know anything but what is in front of you. Mm-hmm. So I had to take a bitter pill that day, but it changed me. It changed my life.
I think that is such an important point, because sometimes we're just so busy and so tired that we're just throwing money at a problem. I know that was my personal problem. I was like, oh my gosh, I do not have time to find the basketball pump. I'm just going to get a new one, and like go on Amazon that day and get a new one. And that happens. I mean, when you have these little kids, if you have them, or just you're just busy with life, it's so easy right now to throw money at a problem, and then you're just throwing your money away.
And a lot of times it's because no one has any boundaries anymore. There are no boundaries. There's no safe area for anyone. So the key is, I'm just going to charge dinner, which I get. I'm going to charge every babysitter I can find because I need the help. So what happens is now you really do, and most marriages have 2 working parents, and they're just trying to get through. I'm watching my 2 children. They all work, all 4 of them, and it's a crazy show sometimes. So they take money that they probably shouldn't spend and buy dinner, or because they need some boundaries. Mm-hmm. And so I think too, that's valid. I get it. But if you do these budgets and you have a miscellaneous category that you save for every month, it's okay if you spend it. Mm-hmm. But it's not okay if you don't have it. That's how people get in trouble.
So talk to us a little bit, just an overview, and then I want to do a whole Wealth Edit Wednesday on kind of how you do your buckets. But I know you have different buckets, but kind of walk through, okay, here's bucket 1 and here's what I put in it. Here's bucket 2 and this is what I put in it. And then the miscellaneous, which it needs to be a bigger bucket than what we think.
And then also maybe touch on how you keep track of it.
Right. Well, actually, it doesn't matter how you keep track of it. I keep track of it with a pencil and paper. So I just aged myself. But, it's all online now. And, my son is like, oh, I know exactly what I have because I've just pushed this button. So keeping track of it is relative. It's however you can do it. But when Lauren has my 3 budgets. And so they're available somewhere. I'm sure she can make them available online or something. Or we'll talk about that. But so basically, I always, even when we were really stretched, I looked at what we had coming in, period. That's what we had. And to cover the basics, I had to take out from that total. I took out everything that's on that monthly budget, like the bug man, the rent, the daycare, if you belong to a gym, anything like that. And then what's left, which for some people is a nice amount. One girl that came to see me had $20 left for the month. And I saw her a month later and I said, how you doing? She said, I bombed. Couldn't do it. I mean, I've just charged up to the hilt again. Because you know what? She didn't have any grit. And that's what this takes. Don't kid yourself. It's very freeing to be in charge of your money. It's really being let out of a prison, if you want to know, if you're in control and you have some peace. But it takes some, I look at my family, I've told Lauren before, my group, whatever they don't have, they have got grit. We get up from a fight. And so you got to look at that number and go, okay, well, either I've got to increase what that money is that's coming in, or I've got to live in these boundaries, because debt, again, is a killer of wealth. So you're never going to be in the position to go, hey, I'm going to Provence. You're going to still be paying off your credit cards. And believe me, they want you to. They want you to be doing that. So you're not winning the game at all. Then if whatever's left is you're growing in your career and all that, and you see that there is a surplus, you have to plan for those yearly charges, because you don't want to come up on your insurance that comes in once a year and go, oh, I got nothing. And then those long range are, if you have children, well, you've got college, you've got postgraduate, you've got braces. I mean, it's in there. It's in my budget. So Lauren, I don't know how, but somehow if you could make those available to people.
Yes, I'm working
on
those. Yeah, I will. What I'll do is I'll scan a copy and we'll attach it to the Wealth Edit inside the membership wall. And then I'm working on trying to convert it to a digital format. So as soon as I can do that, I'll let you know. And then I'm going to send it to Helen too, so she can send it to her private clients.
And also, I do talk about children. I have a whole segment on children, like, what in the world are you doing to your children to let them think they're the center of attention? Think to yourself right now, do you have a friend who's entitled, who's the center of attention all the time? I do. And I love her. She's a bit irritating. You know why? She wasn't raised. Nobody ever told her.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't going to do that with my children. The end. So if they got in trouble, they did work around the house. Nobody went to their room and sat out or any of that. Nuh-uh. I had baseboards to clean. But anyway, I want to do a whole segment on children because, and actually, if you don't have children, you will still hear the guidelines and the premise about having some grit and owning what it is. Just own what it is. You got $10 for the month, that's what it is. You either have to you got to get a second job, got to go get some help with the job you have, but you have to change the amount of money coming in, not your spending.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense because it's pretty simple. It's 10 cents, you get 9 cents.
So the other thing that we talk about in our financial minimalism course, which I swear I think came from you, is just writing down everything you spend. Can you talk about how you do that?
Well, when you start, and I do have to say, Dickie was in law school, and I, again, had an art history teacher job that was ridiculous. Anyway, Dickie came to me and said, listen, we'll never have lights. We will never have power, nothing. You're going to have to do this. Well, I wasn't a dummy about money at that point. I mean, I had gone through college, lived on a budget, but I didn't really know. So I started making this up myself that far back. And so I really basically just faced the music. Now, don't hear me wrong. I wasn't brave about it. And I did look to the side, and it makes me sick to look back now. I wish I had been, the Cartwrights about it, but I wasn't. I just grumbled a lot, but, and luckily I didn't grumble to Dickie. That's a side right there. But anyway, so I started thinking, I'm going to make up my own budget, and it's coffee cans. And I've told Lauren, and Emily now knows, in my savings account, when I look at my savings account, it's a pretty good number. But then when you break it down, it says, trip to so-and-so, braces. And back then it was weddings. And I have to say, my daughter Milner had a huge wedding, and I paid cash for it. And it wasn't a small amount of cash because I'd been saving for it for 10 years. That's the thing I'm trying to say is, and that was power. And sometime I'll tell y'all the story about paying that bill because it was pretty funny, but I had the money. Mm-hmm. So it's all in thinking about money. And I will say this, my regular group of friends, pretty much all pretty got it. They still hid stuff that they bought from their husbands, which I hate that, but they were pretty with it. But you look to the side, why at certain ages do you think you have to have scalamandra? Why is that? So why can't there be a goal down the road? So let's say you're in your 30s and 40s and you're decorating your house. Can't you be clever and smart enough? Hear those words, clever and smart enough, to find something that's great looking, but it's not the price tag. That's part of beating the system. You're winning the game. And I'm so competitive. When I finally got that, I was going to win the game. For sure. I wasn't going to be the girl that I helped who couldn't do it because she didn't have enough. That ain't going to be me. And I hope the people who listen here get brave and get tough and go, hey, this is what my life is. I am going to be so grateful for what I have, and I'm going to quit grumbling. And if I want to do something about it, I'm going to get out there and pull it up, buddy, and get going and get with it.
Yeah. Well, Helen, we are going to, what I'd really love to do is maybe do a class. First of all, thank you. We always joke, our little group of our tribe at Somerset who has heard Helen talk, because we try to send as many people as possible to see her. One of our people says, I have a little tiny Helen sitting on my shoulder, like she can't get her out of her head. So that is definitely something that is going to happen. If it hasn't happened already, just expect it to. But I think that our audience is going to have some questions for you. So already one has come in. If y'all want to just do it through the chat room, or if you want to unmute your phone. But the first one comes from Sarah Beth, and she said, for the time we are in, I feel like as a female in a male-dominated industry, 95% male, I have to weigh the cost of a nanny and going to the office versus working from home and not being seen in the office. I feel like I have to spend the money now that will lead to return later because my company knew I would be there. Any thoughts from Helen or anyone on that? So what do you think about that?
You know what? I'm a worker and I'm a grinder, and so is my husband. And they're exceptions to this. So if you have to have a nanny to be on site in a big corporate setting, I get it. Now, finding the money for that, you've either got to get some help from someone like a relative, or you've got to cut what you're spending on the other half. I think that's valid. I think that's valuable.
Mm-hmm.
So I get that, but it's hard to find the money. I am validating that, but it doesn't mean that I want you to really go out and charge it all. I mean, I don't know. That's a hard one because you're trying to move your career ahead, and I get it. That's important. So you come see me. I'm free, and
Okay.
we'll look at your budget, see where you can cut some to afford to do that.
I remember, I'll never forget, there was this woman, I was in Beaufort, South Carolina. I was pregnant with my second child, and she was so funny. She goes, oh, why? I was like pregnant. So there was not much that could be done at that point. She goes, why are you doing that? And you're working and all this stuff. She goes, I don't care if you and your husband can only have one car. Get some help. Like, you're going to need help to propel yourself forward. So I can personally attest to that because I was saying actually during this this crisis with COVID, we've all been working from home. Funny enough, like, we've all been hitting our key performance indicators. We've been incredibly effective as a team. Emily would probably attest to that. But what I've learned is I've never let myself work from home. I think I said this on the other call. I've never, let myself work from home because of the stigma. And I think you're right. I don't think I could have done this 10 years ago or even 5 years ago and felt comfortable. But now that I'm at this point in my career, I think, this has been a really good learning lesson for me that, like, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. I know I'm going to execute. And so, but that's a new thing for me. I can't say that I've always had the confidence to feel that way.
Yeah. And I'll have to say,
Helen,
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, like, getting creative about it, like Lauren, you said, like, just having one car or whatever it is and not feeling self-conscious about the decisions you make. When I went back to work full time after my husband died and it was just me, and I knew there was going to be some travel on the front end, just in training and trying to figure out how's that going to work. We don't have grandparents that live in town, and I actually let somebody, babysitter, move in and live here rent free because I had an extra room, but I didn't have to pay her. I mean,
getting creative.
Yeah,
That's
and
creative.
I can try to get creative, and obviously that does not work for everybody, but it has been a wonderful opportunity for me to, like, think outside the box and then have somebody on hand that was here to spend the night with the girls and then just, like, help with dinners and all that. So, Helen.
Great idea. And back to the one car, that's back to the very beginning of this, where I'm admitting to you I didn't do this well. And so you can erase my opinion. But had I been sharper than I was and owned it and said, you know what, we need this for our careers, we are going to have one car. We're going to sell our car. So what? That's what I'm saying. Own what your situation is and then work from there. And you I don't know, don't care what anybody else thinks of you. Get tough. Emily, that's a great idea. You solved a problem, and it was a big problem. That's a lot of money that you saved.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have a question? You can unmute your line or ask it in the chat.
People are shy. I get it.
Yeah, they are.
And
They're
I'm pretty
shy on this call. Well, what we'll do is she's going to be back on. If she'll have us, we would like to have her again. So, Helen, what I'd love for us to do next is break it down into, like, money and your marriage, and then another section on money and your kids, or kids that you're involved in your life. Because I really think too, if you don't have children, that does not mean you can't have significant financial impact on a young person. And sometimes the fact that it's not their parents is better with all sorts of lessons in life. You know, go ahead.
I had a person that came to me who was so sharp, and she did not have children, but she wanted to do something for her family. And we sort of talked about how she could do this. One of the sharpest people who's ever been through here. And I hope that and I think she did that. I think I got an email, and I hope it's given her a lot of peace and joy to be able to do for others. Yeah. It's a great thing. It's not my talk on children is just basically kicking you in the rear end. Like, what are you doing? So, I do that a lot. I kick people on the rear end a lot.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. We are so grateful for you. And there were a lot of people that couldn't join. They were like, how am I going to hear this information? So we're figuring out technologically, we have the videos that we've done so far in Wealth Edit Wednesday. We have them edited. I just have to figure out how to put them on the site. So bear with us as we're learning all this new technology. I don't even know how to turn on my computer. So this has been a real uphill battle for me from the beginning, and everyone's making a lot of fun. So anyway, let me, wait, hold on. There's another question before. I would love both topics. It's one oh yeah, this is, this is from Catherine. Yes, I'd love both topics. It's one thing to get on your own bandwagon, but it's another to take a spouse and kids along with you, which, I mean, no truer words have ever been spoken. So true. So anyway, but yeah, so we'll do that. Next week we have The Style That Binds Us. It's a mother-daughter styling team. So they're going to talk about, some key wardrobe pieces for any kind of budget, which is going to be good since Helen's just kicked us into gear, which is what she does. So that's going to be the Wealth Edit Wednesday next week. And we're probably going to have a special section. I did want to just mention this. The Pivot Fund that we just started, a $25,000 grant to a female business owner who has an idea. It's been so great to see these applications roll in. And if you could, because we don't want it to be just focused on our tiny little unit of people that we know, if you have any networking groups that you can amplify that message to, that would be really, really helpful. So we get a huge set of applications. But we've had some good ones. And I do want to have a couple of them. If anyone's interested, I'm going to have a couple of the applicants talk to us on this call. So there's going to be a few additional offerings over the next couple of weeks where you can just hear some of these women and what they're doing. We got a really cool application from a group, or two women actually, who are starting this mental health program in the construction industry. I mean, just things you just wouldn't even know was an issue that they're solving. So if you have an entrepreneurial spirit, or I don't know if I have one, but I like to live vicariously through other people, then definitely we're going to have those calls open, and we are giving our vote, because every seed funder, which is what we're calling, every seed funder gets a vote, but I'm giving my vote to Wealth Edit members. So y'all will get to choose. So we're going to bring you some applications, hopefully interview those people, and then y'all get to pick. We thought that would be kind of fun. So anyway, if y'all have any questions, any topics that we want to cover, that would be great. New content was uploaded on the website for each of your memberships this week, so look out for that. And Helen, thank you so much. We're just so grateful for you. You're one of our favorite people in life. I'm such a fan.
Lauren, will you make available my contact information, because a couple of people have popped up that they'd like to come see me, and I can't tell you how much I love to see people at my house, or if you want to meet. So
I'm going to
make that available
in the beyond the membership wall. I'm going to put Helen's contact information so you have it directly as a resource. We should probably make a resources section of the website. So we will do that, and you should definitely go see her. I cannot recommend it enough. She'll just reframe the way that you think about your money, and not to be bashful about it, to be proud of what you have done or what you can do. And one thing that we always tell our clients, it doesn't matter where they come to us, it is never too late for a do-over. So let's say you've just been in some bad financial habits, you can start again today. It's a fresh day. So anyway, but definitely I could not encourage you to get in touch with Helen enough. And it doesn't have to be in person. Don't you have people calling you now from like California and stuff?
Yeah, and I had a couple of people from couple of colleges call me and they wanted to set up a collegiate. See, basically the information goes for anybody. It's just 10 cents and 9 cents. That's all it is. It's just getting brave enough to stop your habits and do it. And if you're already doing it, great job. Let's figure out what you can do with your money. Yeah. Great.
So good. All right. Thank y'all so much.
Thanks for having